Good morning to everyone, guys. So let's get started. So we talked about how to perform identification of issues by understanding the log, but we did not try like by enabling trace level from standard to verbose or info to other trace level states or verbose, whatever, right? Yes, sir. So that part was not discussed. Yeah, that's very straightforward. So because in case if you get to see any row level issues, then we can start thinking of getting into enabling trace level from standard to what verbose, right? So now that we need to understand what I call do we have any external parameters which can be set so that we can see the effect of those parameters, one with respect to debugging, second with respect to what performance tuning. So that's where I think we stop, right? Yes or no? Yeah. So let's talk about it. After that, we'll get into some profiling and quality aspects. Huh? So let me log on to this out. That I need to share. Yes. So let us take one of the service, which is data integration service, where we'll take one of the tasks and understand what we call the session level properties that can be set from our side. Yeah. I think some we have already set it. Same way, we just have to set it there, nothing else. But anyway, ours is very low end environment, right? So we cannot see the effect of those parameters in our environment much. And there are some error handling, those things we can see, but tunable related parameters of it can't be seen here. Yeah. So let us take one of the pre-built tasks. Yeah. Like yesterday, I think we took one, right? So let us take one and understand like what can be said. Yes. So let's go to edit. Okay, any task doesn't matter for us. So what matters here is the properties. Yeah. Yes, this one, right? So video part we talked about it and param file we discussed. Yeah. So let's talk about this session level parameters, right? So these are the general settings. So write backward compatible session log files. So in case if you want to build or create a session log, you know, so we can create it with a trace level of verbose in it or verbose data or tests or informative. These are the four trace levels supported, right? Yes or no? So, but can we create any compatible session log for any language? Answer is no. So that's where this particular property can be set. If you say yes, NLS also would be taken care of. Next is what? In case if you want to have your own log file name, we can also specify here, which is a custom log file. Yeah. So I think we talked we talked about like where we have the log files, right? Metadata, you've seen meta file, which is XML file, which is job or task or metadata. And then we have also seen Tomcat logs. From that, we can just nail down to where we have this particular what session log or metadata log. Both of them can be seen. Yeah. So we know that. I think we have already talked about it, right? So that's it. Now let us try to get into what if you want to have your own log file name, we can specify session log for what here. In this case, we are trying to focus on, let's say, expression, right? So that's it. Then let's talk about, oh my God. So log file directory, we can specify wherever you want to dump this log file, right? We can also specify it. Then, yeah, this is important. Source connection, target connection, right? So we can have what you call source connection, target connection for what, especially when you try to talk about database stuff. Yeah. So we can specify that in case you have any new connections. Example, word cell test, right? Oracle connection. That is for source. Similarly, we can also have, let's say, another connection which is related to what DB2 connection. Yeah. So, and then start adding, let's say, this is important thing, guys. Treat sources as what? Insert or any DML operation. Yeah. Let's say we are going to perform insert. I think we have seen these operations somewhere. Can you just try to recall like where we discussed about these operations? I think Ravi was trying to ask this question on the right. I think when we talked about synchronization task, I think we talked about it. Yeah, these operations, right? Yes or no? So fine. Now we are trying to supply this at this task level. It doesn't have any synchronization, which means what? If you want to perform any kind of operation based on this particular task, we can also define over here. Yeah. Now the next question. Let's say we have what I call commit type. Remember, guys, commit can be to source or target or user defined. Yeah. So like especially this particular commit type normally is going to help us when you try to deal with what PDO operations, or else we don't use it much. Yeah. Next, we have got commit interval. I think we talked about it. So let's say instead of 1000, we can have 2000 or 10,000, depending upon one, amount of data, and second, the block size that will be supported by underlying what database. Remember, so which means the kind of what you call chunk of blocks or number of blocks or each block size differs from database to database, which can be changed, but it'll set as what default number. Now, from our side, in a sense, from IICS side, if we try to maintain similar size, like what would be understood by underlying database, right? Then we'll get proportional benefit with respect to what writing data to what relevant database. Remember that. Yeah. So that we should always maintain what we call inline number. Yeah. So now commit on end of file. That is always there. Even if you don't specify this, when you try to close or complete last row, right? By default get committed. If you want to make it explicit, we could also do it over here, right? And then let us start getting into what another setting, which is going to be rollback transaction errors. By default, no. So we can also make it yes, especially we use it for DB operations. Yeah. So now let us try getting into what recovery start. This is a very important thing, guys, because let's see if our task flow contains n number of tasks, n number of transformations in case if it failed in between. So what need to be done? Are we going to start from the beginning? Let's say we processed 1 billion rows. So we need to start from plus 1, 1 billion plus 1 throw, right? Yes or no? Instead of again reprocessing the rows which are already processed before this particular task got
Narasimha, one question.
expressed.
Is source connection value, target connection value.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is parameterized value or whatever the connection name you have created that has to
Parameterized.
parameterized. So location of the parameter.
Not to specify, right? So we have this option. I think we talked about. Can you see here? Parameter
Mm-hmm.
file directory and parameter file
Okay.
name. So
Okay.
by default, it's user parameters. Can you see here? This is the
Mm.
default. Yeah. In that case, we don't need to specify any explicit location. But if your param file is anything other than this location, right? Then yes, we need to specify that location also here. Bharat? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fine. Unless it's option. I think we talked about that, right?
If
For
parameter file is in the different location, then only we have to mention it. Otherwise, no.
exact. Otherwise, no. You are right. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, fine. So now recovery strategy is very important thing, guys, because we need to start from a place where it got ended instead of what starting from the scratch again. Remember that. Yeah. So that's it. That's where we'll always set what this restart from checkpoint. Checkpoint means failure point. Yeah. So now the next question, we've got a Java class path in case if you have got any jar files or class files which are which contains newer functionality which is not supported by iics. In that case, we can also specify what I call class path where you placed your jar files, or else we have pre-built locations where we can place jar files. So that will be taken care by this particular what I call agent automatically. One location is what? A library. Can you see here? This is where we could able to see multiple jar files. Yes or no, guys? You can place it. In that case, you don't need to set any class path. But if you place it somewhere outside normal agent location, like C drive source, whatever, right? Like what I specified here. Yeah. Source. Source, it doesn't understand it in the sense agent doesn't understand this location, right? Unless you specify. So that's why if it is anything other than default jar path, default in the sense for those jar files where the path is already been set. That's what's the default. Yeah. So not only I've just shown one where by default there'll be jar path set for, what you call path set for this. So we also have got other locations. For example, even JRE lib. This also can be what you call here also you can place it. These are default locations where you will have pre-built jar files. For that, you don't need to set a path if you just copy it over there, like user parameters we discussed, right? Same concept holds good even for jars or class files. Yeah. So that's one thing. And next is what the general settings, right? Now let us talk about performance tunables. So I think we talked about DTM buffer size, where we can set, let's say we need what 1024 megabytes. Yeah. So 1024 kilobytes. You can specify. K or actual number also can be specified. If you don't do that, 1024 bytes. Yeah. So DTM buffer size. Normally we specify in terms of megabytes, 256 or 512 or yeah, or 128 megabytes, whatever. In terms of multiples of two, we all know that, right? How OS understands. Yeah. And then incremental aggregation. This is applicable, guys, when we have multiple applications in the same task or same mapping or same what you call same task flow. Yeah. So in that case only, this particular what you call option is applicable, or else no. Fine. So now, so which means why do we need this thing, guys? Let's say you already perform aggregation based on one group key, and second aggregation based on this plus some other delta. Only the delta part will be taken care in the second aggregation rather than what you call again recreation of key XX and followed by what I call making it group, then start performing appropriate aggregation. Such kinds of extra operations can be eliminated if you start getting into what usage of incremental aggregate. This is one of the important input parameters, especially when we talk about aggregation. Because without aggregation, normally there won't be any project because there will be n number of similar products or similar customers or similar vendors or similar suppliers or similar physicians or similar types of what you call number of verticals. Yeah? So you'll have what you call many business cases where we can think of using increment aggregation because without aggregation normally there won't be any project. Yeah. So for both in the sense, one from data processing perspective, second from BI business intelligence perspective. Both the cases, uses of aggregation is quite a lot. Yeah. Now the next question. Let's say we have reinitialize aggregated cache or aggregate cache. Meaning what? Let us say we have got what we call aggregation. Now again, if you try to what we call use another aggregation, which has got two separate keys rather than one key. In that case, are we going to reinitialize? Answer is no. Use existing and then take care of delta. So, but if we have, let's say, one aggregator where every time when you try to run, we need to start from the scratch, which means recreate a particular cache from the scratch. Like we talked about when we talked about lookup, right? Lookup also has got what we call static cache, dynamic cache, shared cache, persistence cache. We all know that. So depending upon the type of operation that we do, we need to select appropriate type of cache in the context of what? Lookup. We all know that. Yes or no? Same concept holds good even with respect to what? Aggregation. Remember that. So reinitialization is better to what you call set it because by default it would not be set. Yeah. So now the next question, we have got what another parameter which is enable high precision. So remember guys, what happens is if you set this particular high as yes, meaning what? One, we don't lose any data. Second, there is a chance to get what? Accuracy. So from both the perspectives, it is always advisable to set high precision as what? Yes, because functional perspective and performance perspective in both the cases, that property is going to help us. Now the next question. Let us say we have got session retry and deadlock. So remember, guys, why we need to what we call retry, what we call session execution again on deadlock association. And remember, let us say we are trying to run same task at the same time. Yeah. Now, with one task started, right? Other task will wait for till we release the resources acquired by another task. Now the question, if we don't try to set session retry, what happens? That particular task flow will get failed because sharing violation. So now the question, if we ask for retry, then what happens? As and when the first task gets over, it will be succeeded. So this property is also one of the important thing in case if we have task flow or task which contains multiple similar transformations which are executed at the same time or similar tasks which are executed at the same time. Yeah. So that's one of the resolution to solve or to resolve deadlock association or mutual exclusive stuff, right? So we all know that. Now the next question, this part I think we talked about it. This property is going to help us, especially when we talk about what? Push down optimization. Remember, guys, in case if you are not sure about how Informatica works, how database works, then only this property, especially PDO properties, are going to help us. As we all know that PDO can be set at source level, at target, anywhere. So we got multiple options, right? Or user-defined configuration. So here ELT, extract, load, transfer. But what we dealt in data integration, ETL. So this is different from that. So which means what? Here the primary focus is based on what? Extract and load rather than what we call T, transform. Because we need to push the logic either to a source or to a target. So in such cases, ELT is going to preside over ETL. So but if the database is what you call is better than our Informatica performance, then you can set it, guys, or else don't set it. Yeah. So now the next question, session sort order. I think we talked about it. I think Ravi was trying to ask this question. By default, in log file we have seen it, right? By default binary. I think I was saying that earlier. In case if you are dealing with what other languages, then we need to set appropriate sort order. Ravi, this is where we set this option, Ravi. I said we can set this option uh, at task level, right? This is the place where we set it, Ravi. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So for Spanish, we can set Spanish, whatever, depending upon the language. By default, it's a binary because we deal with what? English characters. Yeah. Now, most of the cases, not all the cases. Yeah. Now, the next question. So let us start getting into what? So constant based loading. Remember, guys, when you try to load the data onto this any table or set of tables, right? One, we can load in a bulk form or a standard loading or constant based loading. We all know that, right? Now let us say we need to load the data based on what? Simple, either primary key or sorry, or it could be composite key, whatever, right? We can load it. Yeah. But do we need it while loading data with respect to what constraint? Most of the cases, we don't use this option because this constraint based option is required while retrieval, but not while loading. But in case, in case, if you want to load based on the key column, we can do it. But some databases are good with respect to performance when you select this option. Some are not good. Remember, especially Postgre if we take, right? It is not that great. So depending upon the target database that we choose, then we can use the corresponding constant based load option. Yeah. Now the next question. So cache lookup function, I think we talked about it. So it is always advisable to enable this because we all know that lookup primarily works on what? Memory. If input data, which is a lookup data, does not fit in memory, then only this particular cache is going to play key role. So, but it is better to enable because though we have memory, because if you have enough memory, right, we can use it for what? Some other purpose rather than using it for lookup alone. So it's better to enable it, but it's not mandatory because it would take a call. If there is a large data, it will make us have a cache anyway. If it is a low volume of data, which can be fit in memory, then make use of memory. Yeah. So that's a default behavior. But if you want to make it explicit, we can also select this particular cache function. Yeah. So now the next question, we are D for block size. I think I talked about it. So let us say some what I call databases again. Here also DTM buffer size, block size, and uh, databases, right? These three things will go hand in hand. So make sure that block size, buffer size, and DB blocks, they're all what? Inline. So that all of them would work in a similar phase with respect to what? Execution of rows or data. Yeah. So now, where we can also have, let's say, DTM buffer size, it has been set, let's say, 512, and buffer block size can be set off, remember. Yeah. So which means that way it can split into two parts rather than what you call more than that. Or we can also have multiples of two so that DTM buffer will be set in multiples of this block size. So now the next question. Let's say we have what you call, okay, no, we are here, right? So line sequence buffer length, I think we talked about it. So by default, what is that number, guys? 1026 we have seen in the log, but by default 1024, multiples of 2, right? There it just added one extra line at the end at the beginning. That's why 1026 we have seen it in the log. Yes or no? But that's the max. We can also increase it to what? More than that, or we can also have less than that. Because the reason is, in case if you don't have this 512 data which contains what you call less than 512 bytes or less than 256 bytes, right? It is better to set it because unless if you don't set no for remaining uh, what you call bytes, right? It is going to fill with what octets, which we call holes. Yeah. So unnecessary memory will be reserved for what you call if you set the number which is 1024 whatever. Yeah. So again, depending upon your input data for each line, right, we can take a call what would be the right number. Yeah. And then we have what you call I think high precision, and that is over. Right? Now let us talk about maximum memory allocated for auto memory attributes. Yeah. So remember, guys, the memory, I think we talked about different types of memory, right? Yes or no? Shared memory, RAM, and stack, heap, all that, right? So this is basically to use it for what? Shared memory only. So we can use it because as we all know that Informatica works based on what? Multi-threading architecture. So if you have multi-threading architecture, how do you make multiple threads to talk to each other? By using what? One of the ITC mechanism, which is inter-thread communication. How those will talk to each other by using inter-thread means what? Output of one thread that will be taken as input to another thread, right? Output of one, where do you place it? Memory. Yep. So that is where what is the maximum memory that we can go up to. Yeah. So that we can have it, let's say 2048 whatever. This should be greater than what we set it for block size and buffer size. Just make sure that guys. Yeah. So that's the one thing. And second thing, if we have attributes in one, let's say transformation, 10 attributes, each attribute 10 bytes. 10 into 10, how much? 100. Make sure that this is not less than what is required for a transformation level. I talked about it. Similarly, same concept holds good for other transformations also. Yeah. So that's where this maximum memory allocated at attribute or at set of attributes level would come in. Yeah. So now we can take the transformation which has got more attributes and calculate total number of bytes and allocate this maximum memory accordingly. That's what I mentioned. Yeah. Yeah. So maximum percentage, both are same only, whichever you like. This is a what you call static number. This is based on what? Based on static number, we calculate that based on the percentage. Additional concurrent pipelines for lookup creation, so lookup cache creation. Yeah. So this is a good what do you call property, guys. Remember, let us say we got multiple lookups in the same mapping. Yeah, lookup one, lookup two. Lookup one creates what you call one cache. Lookup two also creates another cache. If there are two types of lookups, one is what country lookup, other is let's say product lookup. Yeah, product type and product name example. In that case, it makes sense. Yeah, concurrent pipelines. If we have such kind of scenarios, then try to maintain what are called different types of caches. So additional concurrent pipelines for lookup creation. You can just set it as what true, which is one, so that that concurrency would take place. Otherwise, cache creation will happen one after another, though we run in parallel. Yeah. So now the next question. Let's say we have what I call custom properties. In case if you want to allow custom properties, yes, so people can add. People in the sense who is going to optimize, right? They can add their own properties, and those property values can be obtained from what param file, which can be taken as input for performance tuning. That's where we are trying to enable what I call custom properties, right? Next, pre-build lookup cache. Remember, this particular option, we use it for what? In case, let us say, especially when you deal with what? Persistent and also shared cache. In both the type of caches, this is recommended because once it is pre-built, reuse it rather than recreation. So that's the default anyway when you select shared cache. In case if you have not selected, right, this option will help us to take care of that. Yeah. Yeah. Now the next question. Let's say we have a datetime format that's straightforward, guys. Now, that we set it at the time of connection configuration also. But if you want to do it for this particular task, we can also do it. Yeah. So timestamp compatibility. This is for long name for Oracle. This one is what I call precision part, guys, nothing else. Yeah. Now this stop on errors. I think we have seen this stop on errors in some places. Can I try to recall like where we talked about it? When we talked about linear task flow, right? Yes or no? We have seen stop on warning, stop on errors. Yes or no? That's the one place where we have seen it. And when we try to build our own custom task flow, even there also, if you look at the task and task properties in advanced, right? Advanced properties, right? Where we can see suspend, you know, if this particular task fails, whatever, right? Suspend or stop or abort, we have got multiple options, right? We have seen it already. In case if you have not taken care, then we can just set it as part of this what is global task level. So then we can just add it here. Yeah. Next, yeah, normally we don't use that option, guys. It is better to set this at task flow level rather than at global level because so when you get into task flow, right, it is better to confine to that particular each task within the task flow rather than what we're setting at task specific properties in separate. Yeah. Now over at tracing part, I think we talked about it. Let us say by default you will have what I call normal. Yeah. And if you want to have, let's say, verbose data, which is very expensive thing. So topmost trace level is what verbose data, then followed by then followed by verbose unit, then followed by normal, then followed by tests. Test doesn't what you call dump many log messages because but it is going to help us in case if we have any startup issues like spawning threads and establishing communication among or between threads. In case if you have any startup issues, then we can just enable that. And verbose unit, especially when you try to what you call apply performance tunables, but prior to that, we need to obtain statistics. One with respect to sort, second with respect to aggregation, third with respect to resources, like we have CPU, disk, memory, all that, right? If you want to have such kinds of input before we set any tunables, we can set it. Apart from that, in case if you have any initialization issues, right, those issues also can be figured out by using what verbose init. But by default, we'll be using what normal and enable this in case if you have any row level issues. But once it is fixed, right, reset it back to normal. That is best practice. The next is what I think tracing part we can see at task level, right? So same thing we can also set trace at transformation level also. Remember that. Next, this is applicable only for SP only, guys. For example, in case if you have any stored procedure usage within a mapping, right? If you want to stop it, you can just set stop. If you say continue, so it will continue. But it's better to stop because output of this particular SP that will be taken as input for downstream transformation, right? In that case, it is better to what stop. Yeah. If you say continue, then you are going to get to see what anonymous results. Remember that it depends on the kind of functionality that we do. If it is a independent SP, which does not have any impact for any of the downstream transformation, right? Then it is fine. We can just continue. Yeah. So now the next question. So we can start. The other things are straightforward, guys. So on page session command task error. So P is especially we use in case if you want to perform some cleanup activities before we start execution of any session, right? So we can just have one particular shell script or bash script that will be executed. So now if we let us say if this particular pre-session task got failed, again same thing. If you want to stop, in this case, most of the cases we can set it as continue because usually pre-session tasks we don't what you call perform business specific operations, right? We'll perform either flushing or what you call taking care of sleep or taking care of suspense or taking care of what you call cleanup operations. Yeah. So mainly cleanup for cleanup only we do it. For example, before we start executing actual informatica stuff, we just clean up the data from existing tables or clearing cache or clearing unwanted files, all that. So that's where we build pre-session tasks. Yeah. So which means we can make it independent, which we can still proceed further, right? Or else we'll stop the business, right? So that's it. Now the next question. So we similarly post also. Yeah. Error log type. This is a good one, especially when you want to dump, let's say, errors onto a separate file rather than default option supported by Informatica, right? Then we can just select it, dump to flat file or whatever. Then we can also take or we can also select what I call once you select error log type, right? The file path you can specify where you want to place this particular file. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. So once you are done with that, then start adding other what you call log file related stuff like log file name. Let's say test.log or whatever, right? So these are especially when you try to set what you call error log in our own way, or else it is not required, guys. So similarly, log row data, log source row data, these things you'll be knowing it, which means we want to capture row level data in the log. Yeah. So we can just set it and data column delimiter. So yes, this anyway we take care as part of mapping configuration. But if you want to have your own custom delimiter, it's a colon rather than comma, which is a default, right? If anything other than what is set at what you call source level as a default, which is comma, right? Then you can set it. But this is a minor option which you can ignore. Yeah. Now the question, this is okay. These are the existing what I call options supported by any task. Any task means mapping task especially. Now the question, if you want to add your own what you call performance tunables, how do you do it, guys? So that's where custom properties, I think we talked about, right? Add our own properties so that and value to those properties would be handled through parameter file. Remember that. Yeah? So run task and schedule these options. I think we talked about, guys. So in case if we have defined like how often this particular task should be executed, like frequency or whatever, right? We have set it at a global level, you can reuse it. Or this is not advisable, guys. Using global scheduling option at task level. If you want to have it, you can just define here itself rather than what we're deriving from global. Global, we use it in case if you have similar frequency for a number of tasks within a task flow, so that will not have any collision. But one is, let us say, one will make use of global, some other will make use of local. That will create a confusion. So that's the best practice, but you can still use it. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. That's about like how to set this session level properties. But the question, so question, let us say, what is the order of what you call precedence that we follow with respect to what this setting tunables. Yeah. So which means we need to start getting into what you call understanding, let's say, example source, then followed by logical part, then followed by target. Right? Yes or no? I repeat, we can take a look at the source, logical part, and then followed by target. In this case, let's take this example. In this case, where do you start identifying the bottlenecks, guys? Because we talked about what you call like way to set performance tunables. But before we set, we need to start understanding where do we expect or where do you foresee the bottlenecks. So in terms of ordering of identifying the bottlenecks, right? So we need to what I call understand where you need to start. That's where we can see we can start from where target. Yeah. So which means we can start from target. So because that's the end expectation, right? So but that's where you will have many issues with respect to what meeting the business functionality. So commit type, commit interval, buffer size, and also cache size if needed, and block size, and also bulk or normal load or parallel load or straight load. We have got different types of options we use on target, right? So which means we just disable, let's say, assuming that we are using DB. Manually, if you want to identify whether there is a bottleneck or not, replace DB with what file. If it takes, let us say with a file, if it is taking, let's say, uh, 10 minutes, with a database taking, let's say, 20 minutes, which means what? There is a bottleneck in where? In target. So now what we need to do? Once you identify the bottleneck in this way, right, manually, then start applying to numbers like what we discussed, like constraint based loading or bulk loading or parallel loading or load with the proper commit interval or load with the proper block and buffer size. All that we need to take care what I call as part of defining the tunables in the target. Clear, guys? So that's it. Yeah. Now once we know that, the next step is what? We need to go with what? Source level. Assuming that we identified bottlenecks, we applied to numbers, we could able to get to see what you call reaching the same number as we could get it from file, right? So let's say 10 minutes. Now, similarly, we need to go with what? Identifying bottlenecks at source level, because while reading data, usually it takes more time. Yeah, because especially when you have n number of tables with what you call join. Yeah, so four tables, four levels of join. So we need to do what? While reading data, we should read the data in an optimal way. So, for example, in this case, what is the best option that we can think, guys, when it comes to what tuning? What is the best option we can choose, guys? So that's where PDO is going to help us a lot. Yeah. So especially PDO full. If you use PDO full, right? If you have our requirement, let's say join, right? In that case, it knows like how to optimize this n number of levels of join with optimal way. Yeah. So that's where PDO is going to help us. Apart from that, we can also optimize the query based on our own like indexing or taking care of indexing stuff, taking care of proper cursor usage, or taking care of what you call avoiding number of joins, or taking care of if sort is required, use sorting, or it's eliminating. Likewise, we've got multiple DB guidelines which can be followed manually, but we are a bit lazy, most of the cases, so we'll leave it to PDO to take care of it. That's why PDO has become more popular, right? That's it. Once we are done with that, so then since the source part is done, now the next step is what? So we need to start getting into what I call logical part. Yeah. So which means we can start what I call applying tunables at specific to transformation like aggregator, sorter, whatever, right? So depending upon the type of transformation that we use, so we need to set appropriate tunables. Yeah. So like buffer size or block size or cache size or disk location. So for example, if you use sort, no, in sort, cache is going to play a role, memory is going to play a role, then location of a file, which is a PM temp directory, we all know, right? So there's one variable, PM temp directory. We need to make sure that we've got enough space underneath. So then we have what I call what is this is fine. We use memory for manipulation and we store it and then start proceeding further. That's it. Yeah. Plus, we also have to make sure that are we using proper pipelines or not, which is a parallel with respect to partitioning and also what pipelining. Yeah, both should be taken care. Once you are done with that, yes, then it will be executed in a short time because we have resources. So we need to make use of those resources effective, right? So we need to make sure that appropriate number of parallels, let's say the respect number of CPUs, number of partitions that we can set it. Yeah. Similarly for aggregator, joiner, or lookup, whatever, right? So these what do you call parameter values will be varied, but buffer size, block size, or memory settings. So those things are common. Remember. So this is specific to sort, but for let us say we have a source and target, we don't need this. Or we have, let's say, some other stored position, we don't need this. So there are some specific particular numbers which can be applied to relevant what transformation. Yeah. So that's it, guys. Like how one can start taking care of what I call applying the tunables at logic level, which is at transformation level. Okay? So that's it, guys, about performance tuning stuff. I just talked about high level. So, yeah, so once you know that, so we can start getting into, I'll just touch upon other services at high level. Like we have data profiling service and also data quality service. Yeah. So data profile, yeah. Any questions before we get into that topic, guys, with respect to performance tuning? Guys, you're all there, right? These are the important things, guys. But normal transformations that anybody can do it, you know. So because there'll be a manual, so you can just follow blindly. Yeah. Any questions from anybody? Santosh, Shekhar,
No, Najma.
okay, fine. So now let us start getting into what profiling stuff. Yeah. So profiling is basically we use it to identify the issues, right? Yeah, column level issues or table level issues or across table level issues or key level issues, yeah, or dependency issues. Issues can be expressed in many ways, right? So those issues can be identified by using what profiling. But in cloud, it supports only what one profiling operation, which is column level issues, where we can have meta issues can be identified and also data issues can be identified. Yeah? So that's where we use this data profiling task. I don't know why it's taking time. Yeah. So that's the data profiling stuff and data quality stuff where we fix the issues. So we identified issues by profiling service and we fix issues by use data quality, like standardization issues or column level issues or null issues or duplicate issues, right? We fix it by applying what appropriate plans function. That's it. That's a general thing that we discussed I think earlier. Yeah. So now let us see whether yeah. Now can you see here data profiling service? Yeah. Before that, Bharat, you asked one question from Power Center to this IACS, right? Actually, I don't have any Power Center work for mapping here. Else I would have just shown it. It is in some other system that's not working now. Others I have just how to explain it. Yeah. You can just place any XML file over here. I'm just trying to talk about an example. Bharat. Then go to ISGS. Let's say this is a maplet. Use maplet interface PC import, right? Then import it and use that maplet within the mapping and see whether it works on it. Work anyway. I'm just talking about the flow, like how to perform that. Bharat? Yeah. You can try that. If you have any problem, then we can talk about it. Fine. Now, now we are in what data profiling service. So click on new. Can you see here? There's a data profiling task. Yes. So we can specify here any task name as a profile test and specify the location where you want to store this profiling stuff. So now can you see here? So we have got columns, filters, data, preview. So we can select any connection, let's say source file connection, then select any object which is a flat file. This connection is related to flat file, right? Let us select one of the source. Same thing like what we do in informatica analyst or informatica data explorer, right? Here also it is same. So there also we specify connection, then followed by specific object. Yeah, now we can specify, let's say here SEQ. So assuming that we are using SEQ1, yeah. So now run profile on all rows drill down. By default, they'll be enabled. If you want, you can just disable drill down. Yeah. So can you see profile must contain at least one column or rule? We are still doing it, right? Let's say we are just focusing on C1 column. So that message got disappeared. Fine. Let's say we are focusing on columns. One column. Let's say C1 column. So now We can also apply filter to limit the number of rows if needed, or else it is not required. Can you see here? Now we have got first column. That's where it's tick right tick mark, right, which is enabled. So that's where we can see rest of them they are not enabled because we have not selected it. And then if you want to add our own rule, which we call rule based profiling, right? So we can add a rule over here. So click on plus and start adding our own rule. Can you see here? In case if you already have a maplet, we can just use that maplet, which will be converted to a rule, which is same as what we do informatica analyst also, right? And then we can just run it by selecting appropriate agent, which is runtime environment. Yeah. So yes, by default, it will be execute on demand. Email notification, which is same as earlier, guys. So this is nothing different from that. So then we can also see what we call advanced options like frequency pairs, patterns, threshold, whatever, right? So and these are tunables also we can set here. Profiling, because profiling would require lots of resources in case if we have more number of rows. Yeah. So these things are same as earlier, like we discussed, I think more or less all, right? So this is a maximum memory, default block size. You can set it if you want it, and maximum number of columns by default 50. We can set it to 10 or 20, whatever. So if you set it more, right, it will take proportionate amount of time to complete and save it. Then run this particular profiling. That's it. The same as local environment, guys, nothing different from there. But here we have got less number of profiling techniques. Yeah. But in local environment, we got some more like foreign key analysis, joint key analysis, function dependency analysis, primary key analysis, cross table analysis. All are not supported over here. Here it supports only two, column profiling and rule based profiling. Only these two profiling techniques are supported in what? The cloud environment. Yeah. But now you can ask question, how do you take care if you need class table analysis, whatever, right? In that case, what we need to do? We need to start building a maplet where you need to handle it and call it over here in the form of what? Rule. Yeah. So that way we can handle it, but we don't have any dragged up option to take care of it by default. Yeah. Yeah. So that's it about profiling stuff. Let it get executed. You'll get results like nulls or duplicates, meta issues. Those things are same as local environment. Yeah, it's taking time. Yeah. So quality probably you guys can explore, guys. It's not complex. Like we can perform standardization, we can perform data cleansing aspects, we can also perform dupes and dedupes, and we can also perform parsing, we can also take care of labeling. We can also perform address validation. All such things can be done by using what? Data quality service. Yeah. So that you guys can explore. Yeah. Because data quality itself would require at least 20 hours to handle that. Yeah. I'm just trying to what you call talk about. So just startup point for profiling. Yeah. It's taking time. Yeah. So that's it, guys, about this training. If you have any questions, you can just ask questions. Otherwise, we'll stop here. Yeah. It takes some time. You'll get results anyway. Yeah. And just click on it. Yeah. See here. So we got two results. So we are just waiting for last one. This is where you'll get all duplicates, meta issues, whatever. Yeah. If you just click on it, you'll get to see the detailing results. Yeah. Yeah. That anyway, you guys can try. It's very simple, like local one. Nothing beyond that. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll stop here, guys. So I need to jump to some other meeting.
Okay, Narasimha.
Yeah. Thanks all, guys, and bye.
Thanks.
I'll suggest that. Yeah. And bye.
Okay, bye.